It was the kind of cold that cuts straight through your coat, sneaks under your clothes, and settles deep in your bones. The city streets were nearly empty, blanketed by a thin layer of snow. Streetlights flickered, and the only sounds were the occasional passing car and the soft crunch of ice beneath tired feet. Danielle stood alone at the bus stop, her hospital scrubs hidden beneath a long worn coat. Her breath came out in visible puffs, and she shifted from foot to foot, trying to stay warm. Her shift had ended late, again, and now the last bus was running behind schedule. Her gloves were thin, her fingers ached. Then a sleek black car pulled up beside her. The engine purred, its headlights casting a soft glow on the frozen sidewalk. The tinted window rolled down slowly. A man's voice, deep, calm, certain, broke the silence. "You're coming with me." Danielle froze. Her heart raced. She clutched her bag closer. The man inside didn't sound threatening, but who was he? Why was he stopping for her? The cold was biting, but suddenly the air felt even heavier. This wasn't just a ride. This was the moment everything would change. Danielle Brooks was 32 years old, but her eyes carried more than 32 years of life. Long shifts, sleepless nights, and constant stress had carved quiet strength into her face. She was a nurse, one of the good ones, the kind who remembered her patients' names, who held their hands when no one else would, and who worked holidays so others could be with their families. Life had never been easy for Danielle. She became a mother at 22. The father of her son Jalen left not long after he was born. No goodbyes, no child support, just silence. Since then, it had been just the two of them, her and her boy, against the world. Their apartment was small but clean. She cooked from scratch when she had the time, made sure Jalen finished his homework, and tucked him in every night with a kiss on the forehead, even when she had to leave right after for a night shift. Money was always tight. Danielle didn't own a car. Every day she walked several blocks to the nearest bus stop, rain, shine, or snow. In the summer, she arrived at work sweaty. In the winter, she arrived frozen, but she never complained. Her co-workers admired her. She was the kind of person who would cover someone's shift, lend you her last $5, or bring soup to a sick patient's spouse waiting in the hallway. Yet, despite her generosity, her own needs were often ignored by life, by people, even by herself. There were nights like tonight when she questioned everything. Was she doing enough? Would Jalen have a better future because of her sacrifices? Or was she just treading water in a system that never cared whether she sank or swam? But every morning she got up. She tied her curly hair back, slipped on her scrubs, and showed up. Not because it was easy, but because someone had to. And she always believed, if she just kept going, something good would come her way eventually. She had no idea that something, or rather someone, was already pulling up to the curb. Richard Evans was the kind of man people read about in magazines, but never expected to meet in real life. At 43, he had built a tech empire from scratch. His software company was now valued in the billions. He had the penthouse overlooking the city skyline, the private jet, the boardroom filled with executives who hung on his every word. Success? He had it. Wealth? In abundance. But happiness? That had disappeared 3 years ago. Richard wasn't always cold. In fact, he used to be warm, charming, even playful. That side of him had belonged to his wife, Marissa. She was the light in his fast-paced world, grounding him when the numbers and deals started to blur. When cancer took her, everything changed. No amount of money could buy back what he lost. The house felt empty, conversations became shallow. His calendar stayed full, but his heart stayed hollow. Lately, he had taken to driving late at night, not because he had anywhere to go, but because the silence helped him think. That night, the air was sharp, the sky dark, and the streets half abandoned. The car's heater hummed softly as he turned corners aimlessly through a part of town he rarely visited. And then he saw her, a lone woman bundled in a thin coat, standing at the edge of the bus stop. Her head was bowed, arms crossed tight across her chest. Her breath rose in clouds. She didn't fidget or check her phone, just stood there as if holding herself together with nothing but willpower. Something about her posture, her quiet resilience, stopped Richard. He slowed the car. As he pulled up beside her, the headlights caught her face. For a second, he forgot how to breathe. She looked like Marissa. Not exactly. Her features were different, but there was something in her eyes. That tired strength, that quiet beauty that didn't beg for attention, but couldn't be ignored. He didn't know her name, didn't know her story. But something in his chest stirred, a pull he hadn't felt in years. He rolled down the window. "You're coming with me," he said, not as a command, but almost as a plea. He didn't know why he said it, he only knew he couldn't drive away. Danielle's first instinct was to take a step back. A black luxury car pulling up next to her at nearly midnight. It wasn't exactly a comforting scenario, but something in the man's voice made her pause. Not forceful, not aggressive, just calm, assured. She leaned slightly toward the open window, her eyes narrowing with caution. "I'm not trying to scare you," the man said, hands resting visibly on the steering wheel. "It's freezing out here. Let me give you a ride, just until you're somewhere warm." Danielle hesitated. Her instincts usually served her well, and this man, whoever he was, didn't feel like a threat. His eyes looked tired, not dangerous, sad maybe. And for reasons she couldn't explain, she stepped toward the car and opened the passenger door. "I don't usually do this," she murmured as she sat down. "I figured," he replied, offering a brief, almost shy smile. The warmth of the heated leather seats hit her immediately. Her body began to relax, even though her mind remained alert. She rubbed her hands together, clumsy, stiff from the cold. Richard glanced over and frowned. "You're frozen." He reached back and pulled off his coat, a sleek, dark wool piece that probably cost more than her rent. He held it out to her. "Here, please." Danielle blinked. "You don't even know me." "That doesn't matter right now," he said. "You're cold. That's all I need to know." Reluctantly, she accepted the coat. The inside lining was warm, thick, luxurious. She wrapped it around herself, trying not to show how good it felt. Silence fell between them as the car cruised slowly through the dimly lit streets. After a few blocks, Richard broke the quiet. "You're a nurse." Danielle turned, surprised. "How do you know?" "The badge on your bag." She gave a soft laugh. "Right. You work at County General?" She nodded. "Just finished a double shift." He looked ahead. No one should be standing outside after that, especially not in this weather. Danielle studied his profile. There was something gentle about him, beneath the expensive suit and perfect grooming, something wounded. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I mean it." He didn't respond right away, just gave a small nod and kept driving. Neither of them knew it yet, but the short ride was about to change both of their lives. As they drove through the quieter streets, Danielle assumed he was taking her to a nearby bus stop or calling her a ride from a safer area, but instead of the pulling over, he gently asked, "Would you be okay stopping by my place first?" "Just for warmth. Something hot to eat. I'll call a cab afterward, I promise." Danielle hesitated. "I don't want to intrude." "You wouldn't be. Please, just for a little while. You look like you haven't eaten." Something about the way he said it, genuinely concerned, not pushy, made her nod. A few minutes later, they pulled into a gated driveway. The house that appeared behind it took her breath away. It wasn't flashy, but it was beautiful. Modern, tall windows, soft lights glowing from within. It looked like the kind of place she'd only seen on TV. Inside, the home was spotless, almost too perfect. Everything was in its place, but there was no warmth in the decor, no family photos, no signs of life. It was elegant, yes, but deeply, strangely empty. "Make yourself comfortable," Richard said, leading her into a large kitchen, stainless steel appliances, marble counters. Yet it was quiet, hollow, like a showroom. He put a kettle on the stove, then opened a cabinet and pulled down mugs. "Tea, okay?" "Perfect," Danielle said, taking a seat at the island. When he slid the steaming mug in front of her, she wrapped her hands around it gratefully. The warmth sank in deep. They sat across from each other, and for a few moments neither said much. But then the silence started to feel safe. "My son's 9, Danielle began. "I usually try to be home before he's asleep, but tonight was rough." Richard nodded. "Do you have help?" "Just me," she said with a small smile. "But he's a good kid." He sipped his tea. "I lost my wife 3 years ago. Cancer." Danielle's smile faded. "I'm so sorry." "Me too," he replied quietly. They talked about loss, about responsibility, about showing up even when you're tired, broken, or alone. They were from different worlds, but somehow, sitting across from each other in that cold mansion kitchen, they felt like equals. By the time she finished her tea, the walls between them had started to crack, and for the first time in a long time, for both of them, it felt like someone truly understood. Time slipped by without either of them noticing. What started as small talk over tea turned into something deeper, more honest. Danielle found herself opening up in a way she hadn't with anyone in years. She talked about raising Jalen alone, the late nights, the exhaustion, the joy of seeing him smile even when the fridge was half empty. She shared how nursing wasn't just a job, it was how she stayed connected to the world, even when it felt like the world forgot her. Richard listened, not the way people sometimes do, nodding to be polite. He really listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't offer hollow advice. He just sat there, eyes steady, head tilted slightly, like her words were the most important thing he'd heard in weeks. For a moment, Danielle forgot the coat she was wearing cost more than her monthly paycheck. She forgot she was sitting in a stranger's $1 million home. She just felt safe. At one point she laughed, really laughed, at something Richard said about his failed attempt to cook a holiday dinner last year. She covered her mouth, embarrassed, but he smiled wide. "You have a great laugh," he said quietly. She paused, surprised. "I don't remember the last time I used it." They sat in silence again, this time comfortable. Eventually the clock on the microwave read past 1 a.m. Daniel stood, gently folding his coat over the back of the chair. "I should get home. My son's going to be up early." "I'll drive you," Richard said, already grabbing his keys. "You don't have to. I want to. It's the least I can do." The ride was quiet but not awkward. Outside her apartment building, he put the car in park and turned to her. "Thank you for trusting me tonight." Danielle smiled, her fingers resting on the door handle. "Thank you for seeing me." For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like just a tired nurse or a struggling mom or someone the word passed by without noticing. She felt human. She felt visible. As she stepped out of the car and into the chill night air, something in her heart shifted. It had been just one night, but somehow it meant more than she could explain. The next morning, Danielle woke up to the sound of footsteps outside her apartment door. Not unusual in their building, but something about the timing made her check. Wrapped in her robe, she opened the door and blinked. On the doormat sat a small brown bag, neatly folded. Steam escaped from the top. Next to it was a takeaway cup of coffee and a handwritten note tucked under the lid. Curious, she brought everything inside and opened the bag. Still warm, 2 breakfast sandwiches, a fresh croissant, and a small container of fruit. She unfolded the note. Her heart skipped. "Who's it from?" Jalen asked as he rubbed his sleepy eyes and wandered into the kitchen. She looked up at him, caught somewhere between surprise and wonder. "A friend. His name's Richard." Jalen grinned. "Did he bring the croissants too? Can I have one?" Danielle laughed and slid the bag his way. "Go for it." As she watched her son dig in happily, something stirred inside her. A warmth that had nothing to do with the food. It had been a long time since anyone had done something for her, without expecting anything in return. She didn't know what this was or where it was going, but in the quiet morning moment, with coffee in her hand and her son smiling across from her, Danielle felt something she hadn't in a very long time. In the days that followed, Danielle and Richard started talking more. What began as simple texts soon turned into phone calls and eventually visits. He'd show up at the hospital just as her shift started, a tray of coffees and pastries in hand, smiling like he was genuinely excited to see her. Her coworkers noticed. Whispers floated around the break room. Is that the guy with the Tesla? The millionaire? Bringing coffee for everyone? Some were skeptical, others curious, but all agreed. Danielle seemed lighter, happier somehow. Richard didn't care about the gossip. To him, Danielle wasn't a nurse or a single mom struggling to get by. She was a person, a strong, kind, grounded person who reminded him what really mattered beyond boardrooms and billion-dollar deals. She wasn't impressed by his wealth or status, and that honesty made him respect her even more. For Danielle, Richard's visits were like a breath of fresh air. He listened when she talked about her patients, about Jalen, about the exhaustion that never quite left her bones. He never tried to fix her problems or offer empty promises. Instead, he just showed up, steady and real. In return, she saw a side of him no one else did. The man beneath the suit, the one still healing from loss, still learning how to live again. Slowly, the distance between stranger and friend disappeared. They found comfort in each other's presence, a quiet strength neither had expected to find. It didn't take long for the neighborhood to catch on. Quiet whispers turned into curious glances when Richard's sleek car was spotted near Danielle's apartment. Friends and coworkers started asking questions. Who's that guy? The millionaire hanging around the hospital nurse? Danielle felt the weight of their stares and the pressure of their opinions. She wondered herself, why him? Why her? One evening, after a long day, she finally asked Richard quietly, why me? Why did you stop that night? Why do you keep coming around? He looked at her with steady eyes. Because you didn't ask for anything. You just kept giving. Your kindness, your strength, your heart. You gave me something I didn't realize I was missing. Peace. Those words settled deep inside her. It wasn't about money or status. It was about something real. And as their friendship slowly blossomed, it became clear that what they had was growing into something more, something neither of them had expected, but both secretly hoped for. One morning, Danielle woke up feeling worse than she had in months. Her body ached and her throat burned. She called in sick to work, something she rarely did. Hours later, there was a knock at her door. She wasn't expecting anyone. Opening it, she found Richard standing there holding a small bouquet of flowers and a thermos of soup. I heard you weren't feeling well, he said softly. I thought I'd check on you. Surprised but touched, Danielle invited him inside. For the first time she let her guard down, sharing how exhausting it had been lately, physically and emotionally. When Richard met Jalen, her son, the boy's shy smile quickly turned into a wide grin. You're cool, Jalen said, without hesitation. That simple acceptance meant more to Danielle than Richard could know. It was a sign that this wasn't just a fleeting moment or a random act of kindness. Trust was growing, slowly, gently, but surely. Over the next few weeks, the three of them, Danielle, Jalen, and Richard, spent more time together. Weekend breakfasts, park visits, even quiet evenings at home. One day, Richard surprised Danielle with a gift she never expected, her own car. No more freezing at bus stops, no more relying on late buses in the cold. But he didn't flaunt his money. He didn't make it about himself. Instead, he used his resources to help her gain independence, confidence, and freedom. Danielle felt a new strength blossoming inside her. She started dreaming bigger about her future, about Jalen's future. Meanwhile, Richard's loneliness began to lift. The quiet emptiness in his mansion was slowly filled with laughter and life. Together, they were building something neither of them could have done alone. Something real, something lasting. One evening, as they sat together watching the city lights from Richard's balcony, he gently brought up something important. Danielle, have you ever thought about moving closer? To be part of this world, not just visiting, but really her. She looked out at the skyline, her heart racing. The idea was thrilling and terrifying all at once. Moving closer meant more than just a change of address. It meant opening herself up to a new life, new risks, and maybe losing the independence she fought so hard to protect. "I don't know," she admitted. "I'm scared. I've built this life on my own. What if I lose myself?" Richard reached for her hand. "What we have, this connection, it's rare. I don't want to pressure you, but I believe it's worth the risk, for both of us." Daniel squeezed his hand, feeling the weight and warmth of the choice ahead. They didn't have all the answers yet, but they had each other. And that was enough to start. This isn't just a story about wealth or charity, it's about something far deeper. It's about kindness when no one expects it, about empathy that breaks through loneliness, about timing, how one moment, one choice can change the course of two lives forever. Danielle and Richard were both broken in their own ways, she carrying the weight of responsibility and struggle, he bearing the silent ache of loss, but together they found something whole, a friendship that grew into love, a chance to heal wounds that money alone could never touch. And it all started on a freezing night at a lonely bus stop. Sometimes it's the smallest acts, offering a coat, a ride, a moment of care, that remind us what it means to be human. Their story is a reminder that no matter where you come from or what you've been through, there is always hope, always connection. And sometimes, just sometimes, someone will say, "You're coming with me." And it changes everything. Life can change in a single moment. Never underestimate the power of a small act of kindness. It can be the spark that lights up someone's world. If Danielle and Richard's story touched your heart, share it with someone who believes in second chances and the healing power of connection. There's still so much love in this world, often found in the most unexpected places. Follow for more true life stories that remind us we are never truly alone and that kindness can change everything.